Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl and welcome to the Sewing Room channel. And this is your tip of the week, and it's about rulers that you may or may not be using in your sewing projects. I'm going to show you my favorites. I'm also going to show you some that I bought and I found really were not very helpful. Okay, let's get started. I have a lot of viewers all around the world, and not all of them understand inches and how to read the ruler. Now, you can get a lot of rulers and measuring tapes that have inches on one side and metric on the other side. So for those of you who don't understand inches, let's look at what an inch has. An inch is 8/1/8, and this little quotation mark represents inch. So whenever you see this next to the number, it's representing an inch or part of an inch. So in each inch, there's 8 sections. 1/8, which you hear me say when I'm asking you to do some top stitching near an edge. Then there's 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch is 2/8. I say 3/8 sometimes when I want something just a little bit bigger, and you'll see this sometimes when sewing on clothing. 1/2 inch. Lots of times I use either a 1/4 or 1/2 inch for many of the seams in the projects that I create. That's 4/1/8 inch. There's also 5/8 inch. That's used a lot in constructing clothing. Then there's 3/4 inch. It has 6/1/8. And then 7/8, which I rarely use, but on occasion. So let's take a look at the 1-inch section on this ruler right up here. So let's start. So you have 8 sections here. Here's your 1-inch mark. And so these little ones right here represent 1/8. So you've got 1/8, then you've got 1/4, then 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8, 3/4 inch, 7/8 inch, and then 1 inch. So I hope that helps some of you who are not familiar with our type of numbering system. This is a 12-inch square quilting ruler. So if you want to get into sewing, especially if you're moving towards a direction of making quilts, you must have this. Also, for cutting, this is long strips. This is a 24-inch long ruler. I recommend you either get the 6.5 inch wide or like this one, which is 8.5 inch. I really like this 8.5 inch. So it's very helpful in cutting long strips of fabric. But there's other lines on these rulers that are very helpful to you when you're cutting different angled cuts. On this 12-inch square ruler, there is a line that's a 45-degree line that goes from corner to corner. So it goes right down the center of this ruler, corner to corner. Quilters like to use this when they are creating triangular shape pieces of fabric. Let's take a look at the long ruler. On this long 24-inch line ruler, there's a lot of great different lines on it, but the one I use the most on this, again, is that 45-degree line, and it's covering an 8-inch square area. So it goes from corner to corner. It also goes from this angle here. You'll also see a 60-degree, a 30-degree, which for doing other types of cuts. Here are 3 more rulers that I also use quite frequently. Now, I sew every day, and I mean every day, Monday through Sunday, usually in the mornings. So to kind of help speed the process along for me, I have some of these smaller rulers So when I want to do some really quick cutting projects. And this one here also has all of those lines on it that the other longer ruler had. Also on these two square rulers, you have that 45-degree line. But if you don't sew as much as I do, those first two rulers that I showed you is really all you need. This particular ruler is called Shape Cut, and it's made by June Taylor, and you can find this at Joann Fabrics and Crafts. I'm not sure if it's at Walmart. You could check it out there, but I'm sure you can get it on Amazon and other places. I don't use this ruler. I found it a complete waste of money for me. But I have a friend who loves this ruler because she has a problem with double vision. So this ruler has simplified things for her, and she's not a quilter because of her double vision problems. But it's got little slits and it's really hard to see them, but they're on here. And that's for using a rotary cutter. So you just line it up on your fabric, insert the rotary cutter, and I'll demonstrate it in a moment, and just follow along with this. But one of the problems that I don't like about it is if you're going too fast and you don't stop fast enough, you can damage your blade. So you need to make sure that you take your time on this. Let me show you one other. Now here's another ruler that's very similar to the other one, and it's called a see-through ruler. And I've had this for many years. I don't know where I got it, and there doesn't seem to be a name on it. But the one thing that I think is better than the first one I showed you is that the openings are much wider, a lot easier for us older people, easier to find it. But the sections are really short, so you can only use this for really short cuts. So let me show you how this works. I cut off a strip of fabric and I folded it to where I have 4 thicknesses, because you can cut a lot of strips out at the same time. So on this ruler, you can cut like a 1/4 inch wide section, or you can cut out 1 1/4 inch. And then these are all 1/2 inch spaced. So how it works is I'm going to line up this one section, and you just line it up on your fabric, and then you take your rotary cutter, insert it in, and cut. Now one thing that I noticed while I was cutting is that because this little piece in here is kind of floppy, it kind of moves around when you're going through your rotary cutter. But you can just keep going down and cutting out a lot of different pieces. Remember, if you want to cut a 1 inch wide, you'd go over 2, 1 1/2 inch, you go over 3, and so forth. So like I said, it depending on your eye vision, current eye vision problems, would depend on the one you would get. But when I bought these, I never used them. I just threw them in a drawer. So they were kind of a waste, only for me, but for my friend, she loves them. There are many different methods used to cut a triangle shape, especially in quilting, and every quilter has their favorite method. So here is a square. That means it's equal measurement on each side. So if you want to cut a 1/2 square triangle, you could take your long ruler, whatever long ruler you have, and place it corner to corner. Okay, and then you would go ahead and cut it in half. So if you were building a block that required a lot of 1/2 square triangles, you would take your 2 pieces that you had and you would bring front sides together like this, and then stitch 1/4 inch seam along this center section. The problem with this method is it will cause the fabric to stretch. Some quilters will go ahead and add spray starch on it first, press it so that it's really stiff, and then they stitch all of their pieces together. well then afterwards, after you've made your quilt, you've got to go ahead and wash all of that out. So let me show you another method. There are a lot of half square triangle templates that you can purchase, and here's two different ones that I have purchased. This one has just lines going in one direction, and this one here has lines going in multiple directions. This one here is 6.5 inch for a 6.5 inch square to cut through. This one is 6 3/4. Not quite sure what it's for, but anyway, so I'm going to show you how I would use it. That's if I'm going to use it. And then I would lay it on my square, and that way I could cut right through, straight through it. So I could line it up on all the edges, and this way I can get a much better cut. But the problem is, when you're piecing it together, you still got that problem of stretching down the middle. You've got to put the spray starch on it, press it all, stitch it up, and then wash it all out. So let me show you some more. This is another ruler by June Taylor, and it's called Get Squared. And again, you can find it at Joann Fabrics and Crafts. I'm not sure about Walmart, but you can find it all over the internet. And inside it shows you some examples of the way you can use it. You can use it to do what is called a fussy cut, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment. It's also used for cutting your finished block that you've created, a quilt block, and how to kind of cut it at a funky little angle. So you have this wide area right here, and you line it up on whatever object you want to cut around. So let me get a piece of fabric all set up for you so you can see how it works. Sometimes when I have large print fabrics, I want to cut just a section out so it can be centered. So here's a rooster, and you just place this ruler and center it. So you have center lines right here, and then of course this way. And you just focus on centering it around, making sure you have equal space between the object so that it really shows it off really well. And then you could draw some lines around it, then use your rotary cutter to cut it off. But I find after buying it that I really wasn't using it, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment. Here's my 12.5 inch square ruler, and I'm going to show you how to use this one to do the same thing that the other one was doing, the one with a hole in the middle of it. So let's say you want to cut something out on fabric, and you want it to be about 6.5 inch square by the time you finish with it. So I put this little Post-its. You can also use painter's tape and mark it on the line for the outer edge of your square. So for this one, I put one here where it's 6.5 inch. And then also over here. So here's the square area. Then I would place it over, again, centering, getting the same distance on each end or all the way around the object. And then you could just take your rotary cutter and cut here and there, then lift the ruler up, turn your fabric, place it back down, and cut the other two sides. So this method here is much faster, and I use this ruler all the time for doing fussy cuts. In quilting, a lot of the quilt blocks you create are kind of cut off at a funny angle. So you make them real pretty like this, and then you could place a template like this one that I just showed you, and either take a section of it and just twist it around to all these funny little angles, and then you would mark around this and cut it out. Or you can use that 12 inch square and do the same thing. Almost every day, a viewer asks me, where did I get this large cutting mat that I have? And I bought it at Joann Fabrics and Crafts, but you can also get it on the internet and Amazon. always remember, if you're going to shop at Joann Fabrics and Crafts, use a coupon. You can sign up for their coupon app, take it into your store, have it on your cell phone, and they can scan it, and you can save a lot of money that way. And right now things are getting very, very expensive, so you can get up to half off on this mat. And it's made by Sullivan, and the dimensions of this mat is 33 inches wide by 56 inches long, and it doesn't quite cover this whole table. Now the table I'm using is a very expensive crafting table. It has storage in it underneath. But if you're looking for an inexpensive craft table, Joann's sells the ones that fold up so you can easily push it out of the way, because I know many of you tell me you don't have a lot of space for sewing. So that can solve some of your storage space. Where are you going to put it? Well, I hope this tip of the week was helpful to you. If you're interested in looking at other tips of the week, I have a lot of them. Then scroll down below your YouTube screen and you will see links listed down there. So you scroll down to the description section, click on the down arrow or show more, and that section will open up, and then you can scroll down and see links. You'll also see links to other beginners sewing projects, and while you're checking all that out, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and follow me on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and happy sewing. If you like the Sewing Room channel, one of the best ways to show your support is to subscribe by clicking on that red subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to click on share to share this video with your friends. And make sure you click on the bell so you receive notifications for all my new videos. I'm Cheryl, this is Manny, and this is Scotty. See you next time.